Welcome to Your Story Matters. My name is Linda Olson. I'm the founder of Wealth Through Stories and Your Story Matters Masterclass. Our Masterclass series is where we interview experts about their story. Today, our expert is Joe Sanok. Joe is a keynote speaker, practice owner, author of 5 books, and podcaster. He helps healthcare professionals start, grow, and scale private practices. His podcast is the #1 podcast for counselors in private practice with 100,000 downloads per month. He's been featured in Forbes, Yahoo Health News, and Huntington Post. Welcome, Joe.
Oh, thank you so much, Linda. I'm really happy to be here.
Oh, thank you. Well, we are privileged to have you take the time out of your very busy schedule to share with us on Your Story Matters.
Yeah. I'm really glad to be here. It's always fun to have conversations with people doing good work.
Oh, good. So tell us a little bit about what you do and tell us about your story, how you got there.
Yeah, so I took a really traditional path, went to undergraduate and grad school for counseling and psychology, started working at a nonprofit, was a foster care supervisor and worked at community mental health, and then eventually landed the dream job of working at a community college where it was low stress, I didn't have to deal with insurances, all of that. And I had launched a side counseling private practice, just thinking I want to pay off student loan debt and might have just a little extra money for our family to be able to live kind of more of the life that we wanted. And that practice continued to grow. So I started adding clinicians to that practice. And we were all private pay, so we didn't have to deal with insurances. And over time, I realized that what I had learned through marketing and business and all of that they don't teach us in grad school was really unique. So I just started blogging about what I was learning from each book that I would read. I'd read a book and I'd write a blog post, and I'd read another book and write a blog post, and just share as a co-learner. And that blog started to take off, started to get some readers, and I launched a podcast in 2013, really with the intent of being able to interview people I found interesting and kind of follow my own curiosity. And it quickly grew from there. And one year I looked at how much I had made working 10 hours a week, and it was more than I made at my 40-hour job. And so I just kind of sat down with my wife. We ran some numbers, and I tend to be really risk averse. I was the only financial income with our family. My wife's an occupational therapist, but she was staying home with our 2 beautiful daughters. And at that time, it just made sense for her to stay home. And so we really wanted to be careful about making that jump. So made that jump a few years ago and quickly realized that 10 hours a week could have taken off to 50 or 60, but we set some clear lifestyle boundaries around that, which to me is really important, and I can share more about that. But that podcast really started to grow, where I got to connect with influencers and move even outside of just counseling private practices to help all healthcare practices that are growing a practice specifically around that kind of equation of wanting to have some private pay be part of it, having big ideas that go beyond their practice. So that could be a podcast or an e-course, but then also having lifestyle goals where they don't want their business to run them, but they want to run their business.
Wow, that's quite a journey, since my background actually is private practice. I did that for 15 years.
Yeah.
And wow, I wish you were around when I was in practice.
I know. I wish I was around at the beginning. If I could go back and talk to past Joe, it'd be nice to say, hey, we can speed this thing up a little bit.
Exactly. You know what? It's all part of growing. Although I have to say, I was very blessed and always had people on a waiting list. And so I had the people that I wanted, and it worked well. We know that every journey, there are many, many transitions, and often there are specific pain points that just cause us to make a turn in that journey. When I say that, what comes to mind for you? What was that pain point for you?
Oh yeah, for me, it's clearly the year of 2012. So the year before, my mom had cancer and successfully combated that and was doing well. And in 2011, we also had our first child, and we found out shortly after she was born that she was going to need some heart issues taken care of. And
Wow.
so for 2011, it was, she was on this medication that kept the fluid off of her heart. And she would wake up every hour and a half, because that then made her go to the bathroom a lot. And then she'd be hungry, and then she'd be dehydrated. And it was just this up and down,
Wow.
where she had to have these kind of breast milk milkshakes that had extra formula to get her up to weight. So then in early 2012, she's supposed to have this catheter surgery. It's supposed to be fairly low invasive, but they found out that she had a left pulmonary stenosis and had to stop the surgery midstream. And so the day that we thought was the end of the chapter, like, here's the new start, they say, she's actually going to need open heart surgery, and she has to get up to a new weight. She has to stay on those medications. So we're new parents that every hour or two, we're waking up in the middle of the night to help feed this little one. So then right before her first birthday, she has the open heart surgery. It's successful. We get through it. She's going to be off the medication. We can get back to sleeping again. And then about 2 weeks after we get the all clear from her, I find out that I have thyroid cancer. And so again, what we thought was the end of a chapter is just kind of the next phase of the same book that we had been dealing with.
Wow.
So then jump back into the medical community, go down to Texas for some treatment, and successfully move through that. But then my wife, during that time, she had a miscarriage. One of our best friends got breast cancer. A ton of other things happened. And, we all have those 2012s in our life. And it clarifies things in a lot of ways. In that, when I was working on my side business during that time, when I'm working on my counseling practice or practicewiththepractice.com, or I was launching a podcast at that time. So I was doing a lot of recording before that launched. And it makes you say, why am I working on this podcast instead of spending time with my daughter that's about to have surgery? Or why am I working on this blog post when I'm about to go into cancer treatment? In a lot of ways, it was a distraction. But I think that it also made me really refine into the most important things for me to spend my time on. And so to ask myself, with everything that I do, how is this helping me level up the business while also lead to what's a healthy lifestyle and a healthy balance between family time, friend time, my own time, and then time for my business? Because the trap we all fall into oftentimes is that things get successful, and being ideas people like you and me, we then add something new to our plate, and then we add something new to the plate, and then next thing you know, we're overstressed, we're overburdened, we're dropping the ball on really important things, rather than get a project going, outsource it, automate it as best as you can, just touch the points that you need to touch that are most important, and then move on to that next big project. That's where we see people really level up quickly, is when they can say, well, what are the things that are essential for me to touch? And I think, I wouldn't have asked to learn it that way, but that year clarified really spending time on the things that you have to spend time on, but moving as much off your plate as possible.
Wow, what a story, and what a year, a couple
Oh,
years.
yeah.
That I'm sure you don't want to go through again.
No.
But one of the things that I couldn't help but think about, because of the field you're in working with therapists, it can't help but just develop that deeper compassion in you to connect to both your counselors as well as any clients that you still see.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and it's, every day I work with people that have practices that are growing, practices that are developing. And people will get in that trap where it's that time in the chair that equals their money. And so they don't find any way to scale that beyond themselves.
Mm.
And so, yeah, it's great. You have a 6-figure practice, but what's your life look like? You're about to have a heart attack. Your marriage is falling apart. You never see your kids. You're checking email at midnight. All those things are so common. And people say, how did I get in this place? And the things they're trying to teach their clients, they're not doing. They're not doing that individual care. They're not doing those things that are going to help your brain, like a good night's sleep or eating healthy or exercise. And so I think there's often this reset where when people own a practice, it starts to grow, and then they get some traction, and then they kind of take any client they can get, they get a waiting list, and then they realize that they've kind of hit a number that they never thought they could hit. I mean, when you're in grad school, they kind of say, we're not in it for the money, but then you realize, well, you can be in it for the money, and you can still do really good work if you keep your mindset appropriate. But then that reset around that usually 6-figure mark is where I see a lot of practice owners start to reevaluate kind of where their boundaries are, what the life is that they want to live, while also not sacrificing taking a major dip in their income as well.
Wow. So true. My husband is also in private practice. He has a group of about 8 therapists working
Mm.
for him. So I know exactly what you're talking about
Yeah.
and agree fully with it. So tell me, with a story like that and with what you do, the people you work with, how do you how do you use your story to just connect with these people?
Yeah, I think it's less of me using the story. The story I would say is just embedded in who I am. That even before that story, making a positive impact on the world was really important to me. And so, in all the work that I do, I try to have it be beyond just making money, beyond just growing a practice. And so, for example, we have a Facebook group called the World Changers Challenge. And so we'll do a 1 week challenge or a month-long challenge where everybody works together on something. So, last September we did the World Changers Challenge was to write an ebook in a month. And the idea is that even if you're just seeing clients, you're trying to change the world. There's ways with technology we can expand that message. We can create ebooks now. We can have email lists. We can take that big idea to the next level. And so even going back to when I was an undergraduate, I spent some time in Haiti and was working down there at a medical clinic and seeing that level of poverty and then saying, we need to do something about this. So at the time, I helped launch a microfinance program where women got $100 loans and then they paid it back at $105, with the annual income of most Haitians being between $100 and $200. So that would be like me giving you a loan for $40,000 and saying, I hope you pay that back. But these women then would buy a gigantic bag of rice. They would then sell it in smaller bits, and then they would be able to feed their families because they were able to get this money go. They needed that startup money to get going. And so that kind of work to me is still throughout everything that I do. That we often say with practice of the practice that yes, we want to increase your income, we want to increase your influence, but ultimately we want to have a bigger impact on the world than what you're doing right now. So if right now you have a private practice that's going well, what's that next big step for you? How do we take your individual message and magnify it so that more people can be helped beyond just those individuals that meet with you in your practice?
Wow, I love it. And of course, you're using those same principles that you talked about that you used on the mission field in your practice, aren't you?
Yeah, and I think that
Just on
whenever
a
you
level.
see a problem, so it could be poverty in Haiti, it could be, in your own community, the issues that you see. When you see a problem, people that want to take action are the people that need to take action. And so, and there's different phases of life of what that action looks like. I'm a busy dad with a business, and so I'm not going to necessarily leave and go to Haiti for a month. But I can help fund that. I can help people get there. And so the way that I interact now is going to look different based on my stage of practice and my stage of life. But if we can figure out, well, what does that action look like? Because the world needs to look better than it does now. That then genuinely helps us connect with more people. And it's naturally going to help us grow our businesses as well. That's not why we do these good things for the world. But if you help people, they're going to like you. They're going to want to do business with you. They're going to see that there's something greater than just kind of the bottom line dollar.
Mm, love it. Wow. So what's your long-term goal? Where are you going with all of this? Obviously, you're impacting thousands, probably millions of lives right now.
Well,
What
thank you.
what do you want to do long term?
Well, so I tend to think of things a little bit differently than 1 year, 5 year, or 10 year goals. If I think about what I would have thought 5 years ago was reasonable for 2018, that would have been way smaller than where I am now. So I tend to push back against just like, here's my 5 year plan. I am a planner. I am a person that breaks things down, but I tend to go in 1 year cycles or sprints. And so this year, what I'm launching is a member community, our supportive community for people starting a practice. Our big goal is that we want to totally disrupt the private practice market, where the thing that is as essential as a website is our supportive community. Because every day I talk to people that are in the middle of Kansas City or middle of LA or in small towns in Nebraska, that they feel like they are the only people in their community or maybe even state that have this entrepreneurial mind. And then when they get into a community of like-minded people, they realize that they aren't the crazy ones, that they really are innovators, and that they just need to be in an appropriate community. And so this year we've launched what's called Next Level Practice. And Next Level Practice is aimed at people that are in that under $40,000 range, We've started an online community in Facebook. People are put into small groups of 6 to 8 as well. We have live Facebook Q&As. We also have webinars. And then every month we give them something that is equal to the price of what they paid. So for example, one month we give everybody a free logo. The next month we might give everyone our paperwork packet, so that the ROI is guaranteed to be 1-to-1, but we know it's going to be much bigger than that. And so that's our big goal for 2018, is to continue to grow that community. And then moving forward, I've launched a conference called Slowdown School. We started it last year. This year's already full. And basically people fly into Northern Michigan and we hang out on the beaches of Northern Michigan. We go hiking. We have a massage therapist that comes in. We really help these people slow down for 2 days. And then we work on their businesses for 3 days and then go wine tasting at the end. And so it's a way to bring together communities of people that are at similar phases of practice. So I would say, I don't know for sure what this next level for me is going to be in 2 or 3 years, but I imagine it's going to have a couple core things as part of it. It's going to have an impact on the world and on people's individual lives. It's going to have community as part of it, because I think we learn better when we're in a community of people that are headed in the same direction.
Absolutely.
And it's probably going to raise my finances as well. So I'm going to grow that side as well.
Absolutely. And when you're giving and growing other people, obviously it comes back to you. Love it. Well, Joe, you've given us lots of great nuggets today, but if you could leave, just leave our listeners with one particular nugget today, what would that be?
Yeah, I would say focusing on what's the big natural next step for you. So for example, I looked back at what we were offering. We were offering our mastermind group. We had one-on-one consulting. So these were higher end products. We had a couple lower end products, but we had a big gap in who we could serve, those people that wanted that extra support. And so the natural next step for us was this supportive community. So I would say for anyone that's listening right now, just say, what's the next reasonable step for myself? And then maybe take that step a little bit wider than you expect. Because when you do that, it's amazing how you then start surrounding yourself with people that are like-minded in that same way. And so there's so many tools that are out there, things like Help a Reporter Out, being interviewed on podcasts, being interviewed for summits, ways that your individual expertise would be beneficial to the world. Because so many people say, well, what do I have to offer? You know, and they get paralyzed by perfection. But most of us have something inside of us that's unique that we need to share with the world. And I would say stretch yourself to get out there and to share that story with other people.
Oh, I love it. Absolutely. I always look for that next step.
Yes, absolutely.
Growth is all about. So, Joe, I know that you have a very special gift that you were offering to our community here. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so for people that are starting out a healthcare practice, I've put together a special e-course for individuals. So it's a 9-step e-course that you're going to get an email that's going to walk you through that startup phase as well. There's videos that are going to walk you through how to look at other practices in your area, see what they're doing well, see what they could improve on. And then also you're going to get a 28-step checklist that will walk you through those very first steps of starting a practice. And so if you have a practice in mind, if you want to grow it, or if you're already established, we would love to help you out. They can get that at practiceofthepractice.com/start. And it's totally free. We have hundreds of dollars of value that's in that for you to get started and to really find your ideal client.
Wow. Thank you. That is
welcome.
truly a huge gift. And I know even though we're speaking to a specific audience, I cannot help but believe that a lot of those principles could apply in many different industries. Is that correct?
It's 100% correct. I've focused on healthcare, but I've also done consulting with online taekwondo companies and all sorts of other random companies that the principles are pretty universal. I've just found that with my particular specialty to specialize with that, that's kind of where I aim my marketing. But honestly, anyone that has a business or wants to grow a business would get value from it.
Oh, great. Well, thank you again, Joe, for taking time out of your very busy schedule to spend with us. You've certainly given us much food for thought, and love your story. Keep using that story because I know that you are impacting, like I said, if not thousands, millions of people on probably a monthly basis. So thank you for what you do.
Oh, thank you so much, Linda.